La Palma is a series released in December 2024, consisting of 4 episodes with a total duration of about 3.5 hours. The series follows the struggles of various groups of people trying to survive a devastating natural disaster. Let's get started, enjoy. The story is set on the beautiful island of La Palma, known for its alluring charm. In the waters around the island, a small boat is seen floating, carrying a group of tourists who are enjoying their vacation. Intrigued by the clarity of the sea water, one woman ventures out for a dive. Unbeknownst to them, the natural beauty holds hidden dangers, and what started out as a fun vacation ends in tragedy. A week on, the focus of the story shifts to a family that has just arrived on the island for a vacation. Let's meet them. The father Frederick, his wife Jennifer, and their 2 children, Sarah and Tobias. On the first day, the family met up with relatives they had apparently promised to meet at the hotel where they were staying. After a brief chat, they retire to their room to rest and prepare for the next day's exploration of the island. Meanwhile, in a BMKG office located near La Palma Island, a man named Alvaro sits reading a newspaper. The headlines reported a boat accident that had killed several tourists, with 2 bodies still missing. The bodies have been taken to the hospital for autopsies to unravel the mystery behind the incident. On the other side of the office, a woman named Mary notices something odd. One of the BMKG's monitoring devices placed in a cave under the mountain suddenly stopped working. Without delay, Mary and her colleague immediately went to the location to check the device. As they entered the cave, the atmosphere was tense. Water dripped heavily from the ceiling, and they found dead bats scattered across the cave floor, as if they had just lost their lives. After exploring further, they found that the monitoring device had been crushed by the rock, and when one of them looked up, they saw a large crack creeping up the cave wall.
That is a seriously big crack.
Realizing the danger that lurked, they immediately returned to the office. Arriving at the office, the large man accompanying Mary began to browse through old research data. He found a research conducted 20 years ago by a scientist. A British scientist once came up with the theory that if the mountain on the island of La Palma were to erupt, there was a good chance that 500 square kilometers of its slopes would collapse into the sea, triggering a devastating tsunami. The head of the BMKG is increasingly curious about the mysterious deaths of the tourists. He immediately went to the hospital to see the autopsy results. According to the report, the cause of death was high levels of carbon dioxide in the lungs. In addition, the wounds on the victims' bodies resembled burns, indicating that the seawater was extremely hot at the time of the incident. Back at Frederick's family, Sarah was seen taking a walk, leaving her brother alone in the pool. Soon after, Frederick panicked when he realized Tobias had disappeared from the pool. Anxious, he sets out to find Tobias and finds Sarah and her friend to help. After searching all over the place, they finally find Tobias standing on a rock by the beach. As they approach him, they see something that makes Tobias so speechless. At the BMKG office, Mary is still trying to find answers to the strange phenomenon. After further analysis, she concluded that the crack she found in the cave might have come from up the mountain. To be sure, he and his colleague decided to go to the mountains, and sure enough there was a suspiciously long crack. They immediately installed a crack measuring device that used a sensor system. However, once the device was active, they were surprised to find that the data showed that the crack continued to widen, indicating that the ground around it was moving slowly. Realizing the danger, the man with Mary immediately calls Alvaro to inform him of the findings. At the office, Alvaro sees indications that the mountain is starting to show activity that could potentially release gas emissions from the cracks. He immediately warns them to leave the location for safety. The scene moves to the hospital, where Mary finally regains consciousness in a safe condition. Meanwhile, Mary's colleague who was in a coma was still unconscious, while Mary, who realized that disaster was approaching, immediately called her sister to leave La Palma Island as soon as possible. However, her sister, who loved the beauty of the island so much, ignored Mary's warning. Not giving up, Mary asks that they meet at home tonight because this is very important and not something to be taken lightly. At the hospital, Alvaro comes to visit Mary and shows her something on his laptop. He shows her that the crack gauges they installed on the mountain continue to record the movement of the ground, albeit so slowly that they can't be seen with the naked eye. However, even the slightest movement has the potential to cause a major disaster. Realizing the danger, they immediately went to the Minister of Communications to convey the emergency situation. Alvaro strongly requested that the government immediately issue an evacuation order for all residents living around La Palma Island. However, the minister refused the request and instead expressed his anger. He was worried that the evacuation announcement would trigger mass panic, which could potentially lead to looting, increased crime, and other social chaos. The minister stated that he would only make the announcement if the data provided by Alvaro was truly valid and not false information. Although Alvaro assures him that the data is accurate, the minister remains skeptical and seems reluctant to take action.
Hablamos de la naturaleza, no de matemáticas. You need to set up a meeting with the government. People could be in serious danger.
Meanwhile, on the other hand, Frederick is still enjoying his vacation with his family. To speed up the story, the family's point of view will be slightly condensed. Essentially, their daughter Sarah met a woman there and they fell in love. Jennifer, the mother, even supports the relationship. Their relationship was filled with drama, while Frederick and Jennifer also had disagreements on several occasions. Until one afternoon, Frederick, who was relaxing in the swimming pool, suddenly witnessed a mountain eruption in the distance. Not only that, but an airplane passing over the area crashed after piercing the volcanic ash from the explosion. It was only after this incident occurred that the Minister of Communications began to take Alvaro's warning seriously. Top government officials immediately held an online meeting with Alvaro and his team. They eventually promised to prepare emergency warnings for the public about the dangers of a possible tsunami, but in his heart, Alvaro could only hope that it wasn't too late. Later that evening, Mary received a call from her family back home with bad news. Without thinking, she immediately went home. However, when she got home, she found her brother dealing with the police because he was caught with a bottle of alcohol. Intending to defend her sister, Mary accidentally hit one of the officers. As a result, they are both taken to the police station and Mary is arrested on charges of violence against the authorities. She had to remain in the cell until a lawyer could bail her out. On the other hand, the central government held an emergency meeting to discuss the potential disaster threatening La Palma Island. In order to avoid public panic, all government officials are required to keep this information secret until an official announcement is made. However, among them, there was a man named James who looked suspicious, as if he was planning something. Meanwhile, Frederick's family was still enjoying their vacation. That day, they relaxed in the hotel swimming pool. However, the atmosphere changed when Jennifer received a call from someone named James. Apparently, James is Jennifer's brother. He secretly warns Jennifer to get to safety with her family before it's too late. James also tells her that due to the previous plane crash, all airports in the region have been closed. However, there was one airport called Tenerife that would still have its last flight. In order to get there, Jennifer had to board a small ferry that would leave in 20 minutes from the nearest port. Wasting no time, Jennifer and her family quickly packed up and rushed to the port. However, just as they were about to order a taxi, there was not a single vehicle in sight. With time running out, Frederick made a desperate decision. Seeing a parked car with the keys still inside, he immediately took it and drove off in a panic. The car owner who realized his vehicle was stolen immediately chased after them. However, with all their efforts, Frederick managed to reach the harbor on time. Unfortunately, when they got there, something unexpected happened. Frederick, who was left behind, tried to find another way to get off the island. He tried to charter a private boat so he could cross over to the mainland, but the harbor master refused his request. Frederick kept trying to persuade the harbor master to let him charter a ship, but his request was still denied because the distance was too far and there were procedures that had to be followed. Just then, the disaster alarm suddenly sounded, signaling the urgency of the situation. In the distance, a volcano could be seen erupting, sending everyone rushing to Tenerife Airport to board evacuation planes. In a panic, Frederick finally managed to get a place on a small boat. However, just before the ship departed, a mother with her baby begged for help to be allowed to board. Unfortunately, most people pretended not to hear her request. Seeing this, Frederick made a meaningful decision. Meanwhile, Patrick seemed to have given up.
Estamos llenos, cada vez más gente, lo siento,
In the midst of the chaos, he chose to sit in front of the police station and call his wife to say goodbye. However, Sarah didn't want to give up so easily. She tried to contact James and told him that Patrick was still left behind. Unfortunately, James can't do much. He can only hope for a miracle to save Frederick. On the other hand, Mary, who is still in the cell, finds that her sister has managed to steal the key to free her. After getting out, they meet another prisoner who begs to be released. With some hesitation, Mary finally releases him. By the time they get out, things are already getting chaotic. They met Patrick in front of the police station, who informed them that all the boats had left for Tenerife. Luckily, however, Mary's sister brings good news that gives them hope. Patrick regained his spirits and rushed to the ship. Meanwhile, back at the government office, James was still trying to figure out how to save the people on the ground. He suggested to the leadership that they bring in a wave expert to estimate the impact of the tsunami. However, his suggestion was rejected. The government was worried that if the wave count was wrong and many people still died, they would be blamed. Rather than take that risk, they preferred to keep quiet and let the disaster happen on the ground without adding to the problems in the government. However, James felt that there should at least be an effort to save the people. With his own determination, he brought in a wave expert and asked him to immediately calculate and analyze the map and position of the mountain at the disaster site. The expert pointed out that this tsunami would not only travel in one direction, but could potentially collide with other waves, which might reduce its strength. There are some hills that may be safe havens, but they will also be exposed to toxic gas pollution from the eruption. This gas could be carried by the wind with the tsunami. The expert explained that there was about a 50% chance of survival, provided people could reach the Canary Hills near La Palma Island. The hill was not very high, so it was still possible to reach it. Getting this information, James went back to the leader and suggested that the results of the wave expert's calculations be published. That way, those who did not get the plane could try to save themselves to the hill. However, the leadership still refused on the grounds that they didn't want to take risks that could damage the government's reputation. Meanwhile, Patrick rushed to the ship. On the other hand, Jennifer, Sarah, and Tobias have made it to the entrance of the plane. However, a surprising thing happened. Sarah suddenly refuses to leave without Charlie, her same-sex partner. Sarah insists on getting on the plane after finding Charlie. Her mother had warned her that even if she found him, Charlie still couldn't go because he didn't have a wristband. However, stubbornly, Sarah said that she would give her father's wristband to Charlie. More surprisingly, her mother allowed it, probably because she had resigned herself to the fact that there was little chance of Frederick making it to the airport. After Sarah entered the plane, all passengers were ordered to board immediately. Jennifer began to panic because Sarah hadn't come out yet. Time was running out, and the plane couldn't wait any longer.
Yes. Jag trodde jag hade missat. Nej, jag hade only no. You have to wait for my daughter. Yes.
Finally, Jennifer chose to get off the plane to find Sarah. At the government office, reporters began to gather to interview officials about the country's response to this disaster. As the chairman prepares to give a statement to the press, James suddenly nonchalantly steps up to the dais.
En safe spot. Det är koordinaterna.
Gör vad som helst.
Meanwhile, FedEx, who had just arrived on the mainland, was shocked by the earthquake and mountain eruption, which made him believe he would not be able to reach the plane. However, he received a message from James about the safe location. After checking, it turned out to be not too far away, but she had to get back on the boat and would likely be hit by a tsunami due to the avalanche. Nevertheless, she decided to make one last attempt and continued her journey. Back at the airport, Sarah was already on the plane with her boyfriend, while Jennifer was still outside, looking for Sarah. Sarah then called her mother and told her that she had boarded the plane. However, with the avalanche and tsunami already happening, Frederick tries hard to avoid the approaching tsunami. On the other hand, Patrick and Mary survived along with several other people. Jennifer, who survived, was also there. So, what happened to Sarah and her boyfriend on the plane that was swallowed up by the tsunami? As it turns out, they both survived an unexpected miracle. Maybe God gave her a chance to live longer, maybe he gave her time to repent. After the incident, Sarah heads to a safe location to meet her family, with a very surprising ending. The movie ends.